I just finished watching Consumer Reports review of the Prius C and thought, man, those guys just didn't get it. This isn't a luxury car. This isn't a sports car. Maybe they spent too much time on their own little test track. Call me crazy. I don't have my own test track. I do a lot of my testing on the grounds of an abandoned state psychiatric hospital. I'm going to try something a little nutty with the Prius C. Take it out on the back roads in the small towns and see how high we can crank those MPGs. Now you have to test this stuff in the real world. I'll bet you if I drove around here on the hospital grounds for 10 minutes, I could keep my numbers up in the 80 MPG range just because it's all low speed and I could coast and I could regenerate. Wouldn't have to worry about going any faster than 25, 30. So we're going to go take this out on the open road and see how she does. No traffic, we're going to pull out nice and easy. Now I'm going to switch here to a different display. We're going to go to the Eco Score display, and that tells us how we're doing as far as moderating our acceleration, getting a good cruise. So when you first start out, it takes a while for your MPGs to crank up. You know, you'll start the car up in the morning and engine will have to warm up. You'll watch your MPGs go down. Once the car comes up to temperature and you can start using that electric motor more, you'll see the MPGs crank. So right now we're in Eevee mode and we're just kind of crawling along at 35. Not too shabby. I give it a little more gas. We want to get up to 45 to where the speed limit is. We're going to burn some fuel, and if you watch the monitor over here, you can see some of that going on. I'm not sure how well that camera is lined up. Okay, country road, 45 miles an hour. Lift your foot off the gas, and it provokes Eevee mode. We're down to 40. We're going to just coast a little bit, and then we're going to turn. And when we turn, obviously we're going to brake, so it's an opportunity to regenerate some power, to put power back into the battery. Now, because we're going up a slight incline, it can be tough to do that under electric power. As soon as you top, as soon as you crest, foot off, you're in Eevee mode. We're rolling up to a stop. And this road is pretty twisty. It's a back road. It's 25 miles an hour. So we're going to be able to coast a lot on this. And then once we get to the real crazy downhill part, nice stop there. You'll see we got all 5 nuggets. Once we get to the real downhill part, we will make up a lot of we'll make up for a lot of the batteries that we're gonna waste until then. So watch that battery. You'll see it's pretty full, not all the way full. Once we get over this little rise, we're going to get into a coast mode. Foot off the gas. Now we're coasting, and we're going to be going downhill for quite a while. So this will really charge the batteries up. So there's some inherent regeneration just because you're going downhill. The system is pulling some energy from that to charge the batteries up. But then when you get on the brakes, you see that whole piece there light up in blue. That really puts the energy back in. This is a 25 mile an hour road, so we'll just slow it down and charge up our battery. So it's pretty quiet. You know, the engine's not running, it's pretty quiet. The tires can be noisy when they're stressed. And you hear a little bit of rattling that's coming from one of the cameras, the camera that's behind me. But here we are still in Eevee mode, and now our MPGs are up to 55.2. Not too shabby. It's relatively flat. I can take my foot all the way off. Watch out, bird. We get some good coasting time. Now, you'll see we're going up a hill just a little bit. And if you're careful, you can stay in Eevee mode. Or you can stay under Eevee power, not Eevee mode. Because I don't press those buttons down there. Eco mode, Eevee mode, nah. I leave those alone. I'm efficient enough without pressing any buttons. Now we're over that hill, crested that little hill, and we're back to a full coast. And if you notice, that battery is going up, sharp turn here. And here's the real twisty part. I'll slow it down because we're gonna speed up because it drops so quickly. And it's a blind curve too. So I'm dragging the brakes. Oh look, a Prius. Now we're at a stop. You'll see we did really well. Our start was excellent, our cruise was pretty good, and our stop was spot on. So we got 90 out of 100 in our eco score. It's a cool little training thing. No traffic coming? Gonna just Eevee out. We'll creep out. You don't want to do this in traffic, but because there's not much traffic on the back road here, we can get away with it. Gonna come up to another stop up here with the yield, and let's see how we do here, because we've got to go over a couple of bridges and then crawl up a hill. Let's see how we can get this done. We're not getting in front of that guy. All right. Here's the first bridge. It's an old wood bridge, so it's going to rattle. And I'm going to try and get some speed up without kicking the gasoline motor in before we creep up the hill. We're at 30, all under electric power, and it's a 30-mile-an-hour road. Don't tell the gendarmes I'm doing 34. If you're really careful, you can glide up moderate hills, but it can be tough. You have to think ahead of time. It's also getting a little stuffy here because I don't want the noise from the ventilation system messing up the audio. It's probably bad enough as it is. So no air conditioning, nothing else. And check this out. Because we've been able to use that hill and we've really been careful, right now we're averaging over 80 miles per gallon. Crazy. Another hill we need to crest. It's a long one. I don't know if we'll be able to get all the way up this. And the speed increases to 35, so there, the engine just kicked in. So the technique to provoke electric mode is just lift. Take your foot off the gas and then reapply gently. Always anticipate traffic, get on the brakes a little early, and regen when you can. We've come to a full stop. You'll see that we got a good start out of that. Pretty good cruise. The stop wasn't as efficient as it could be. But if you keep watching your eco score, over time you're going to get to be more and more efficient. The real trick is to learn how to do this without irritating the drivers behind you. And you always want to be as courteous as you possibly can be. No sense upsetting your fellow drivers just so that you can save a nickel or two, if you know what I'm saying. Hey, and you know what? I'm not one of those car reviewers that talks to the camera all the time when they're driving and the camera's over here and their eyes should be straight ahead. But because I'm sitting here in traffic and we're not going anyplace, I can talk to the camera. What do you know about that? Besides, I'm Hollywood. This traffic's kind of sucky. Tell you what, we're going to take a right here rather than sit and wait to get across this silly light. Go through one of the neighborhoods. And you can see how we do over the humps, because caution, there are humps ahead. We're going to hit this hump at 14. Oh! Whew. That was a violent hump. We'll hit this one at 15, 14. A little easier on that one. Let's see if we can hit the next one at 20. See how she does. 17. Oh. I'm not sure what they were thinking when they put all these humps in. They thought they'd slow traffic down, but then they have to hear people smashing over the humps all day and night. It's like Parliament Humpadelic or something. I don't know. Whoa. That was a good one. My mom once put a Renault up that wire. I was in the back seat. Just sharing that with you. We'll go right. More humps. These humps are much more civilized. So we're just creeping around town here. Right now averaging about 77, 78.8. The numbers are extraordinary because we're at lower speeds, and that's pretty typical. Once you go on the highway, you get above that the point where you can just cruise at 45 with just electric power. Your mileage is going to drop to like 50 or so, which is still pretty good, right? But you're not going to see the insane numbers like we're seeing right now. But I'm going to take you on River Road, and you'll see that we can cruise at 40, 45, and not really use any gasoline. So the EcoScore thing, it's measuring the segments for you, these little intervals from your start to your stop. The idea is to get you better and better and better at it. So now I can see I've got a four-way stop here. It's a 25-mile-an-hour road. There's no sense to rush up to it, waste gasoline, and the police presence in this town is fierce. Fierce, I tell you. Didn't give me a stop score because I rolled that one just a little bit. You got to come to a full stop, it seems, for that stop score to pop up. Not bad, 83. When you're in the early part of a loop, of a driving loop, when you reset that or from the start, you'll see the MPG numbers vary a lot because it's a small sample. The further you get into the loop and the more miles you rack up, the less sensitive that becomes. So now you're going to see it, right? See how we're in the red? I'm going to really stomp on it. Oh yeah, we're hauling right now, baby. And then boom, off. And once we drop under, there we go, 43, now we're Eevee. And we're floating. So let's see how far we can take this. Oh, whoops. Got to have a really light foot. So if you look down here, you'll see when we were in town there creeping around, we were doing really well. We were up around 100 miles per gallon. And then when you've got to apply the throttle and kick that gasoline engine in, that's when it drops. You got the meter here that's telling you constantly where you are. Now we're going downhill, so we're all the way up at 100. And if you look up at the eco monitor up top, you see we're in Eevee mode. We're floating down the hill, charging up our batteries again. There's a little wind noise in here. You know, for an economy car, it's not too bad. Tire noise is apparent when you're pushing. When you're pushing hard. Now the Goodyears are, you know, maybe they're a little harder than some of the others, but it's low rolling resistance, so that kind of comes with the territory. Ride quality, well, it's a pretty short wheelbase, so what do you expect? You know, a little tiny car like this isn't going to give you that Cadillac plushness because the wheelbase is just short. It's another long drag uphill. Kind of tough to maintain under Eevee, so you'll see the numbers drop. Oh, we dropped below 70. Oh dear, we've dropped below 70 miles per gallon. That's horrid. And let's see, foot off, we're in Eevee, and let's see if we can carry this for a little while. Uphill. Difficult to fight gravity. There's the engine again. But we'll try and keep it out of the red. And once we come up to the crest, lift. And then accelerate on the way down. Get your speed back up with electric power rather than gasoline. We're going to come up to another little twisty segment up here, and then a little bit further down the road we've got a nice downhill run, so we're going to charge the batteries up and do some serious gliding. What do you say, 35, 25, we're going up the hill. Is this a handling test? Hopefully I don't end up in a tree or in somebody's bumper. But there's a couple real tight turns coming up. So hang on, baby. Watch out for the Range Rover. I'm not displeased with the handling. I mean, for what it is, it's just fine. It's an economy car. So, look, we're down to 63.2. Oh, drat. Fear not, my friends. We're about to crank it back up again. Okay, ready for this one? We're starting out at 62.5. I'm going to EV it as far as I can. A lot of this coasting technique, you can use it in any car, any conventional car. It doesn't have to be a hybrid, and that's one of the little secrets to getting better mileage is you just use inertia. Learn when you can get your foot off the gas and let gravity do its work. We'll get a good stop out of this one. Oh yeah, our cruise wasn't good, but our stop and start were exceptional. Remember, you're not burning any gas when you're sitting here waiting for traffic to clear. So if you don't want to infuriate the people behind you, you can take your time. Wait for the right opportunity. Because there's somebody behind me, I'm not going to creep out the way I normally would. But we're coming into an area where I know I can do a lot of coasting and not annoy anybody because there's lots more speed bumps to deal with. We were at what, 62.5 when we were at the low point. Once we get back to the center of town, as it were, maybe we'll be back up to 60 because I can float most of the way. It's 35 miles an hour, but there are speed bumps that are 25-mile-an-hour speed bumps. Why they didn't just change the speed limit to 25, I don't know. We'll hit the speed bump at the prescribed 21. Not bad. Not bad at all. Oh dear, this big SUV can't go over it at more than 16 miles an hour. I suppose I'll have to blur their license plate. So what? I said my goal was 70 by the time I got back to the middle of town. We might just make it, Rabbit. We might just make it. Put down your cell phone and drive. You, wait. So, there you have it, my friends. I'm flirting with 70 miles per gallon. That was a pretty short loop, but variety of terrain. Didn't really deal with any real highway driving. So again, you would see it drop there, but you know, if you're in town and on the back roads, 60 miles per gallon, 65 miles per gallon, it's doable. Get some big hills, that's a different story. because those big hills will eat it up. But all right, now check this out. We're at the rescue squad, so I'm just going to park over here for a sec. And I'm going to put it in park. We'll go through the display. We'll look at our eco savings on that. I don't know, what, 50 cents. That ride cost us 50 cents. 70.8 miles per gallon. And if we go to drive information, it's not going to tell us exactly how far we drove. 6.3 miles in EV, or I'm sorry, 6.6 miles in EV mode. Not too bad, not too bad.